There we go. Oh yeah. This is the Climate Careers Chat, everybody, and we're starting very soon. But right now, we want to make sure to welcome all of you guys, and we want to know, where are you tuning in from tonight? And how did you hear about us? Tell us in the chat. Send it to us. We want to hear. We want to know. And we're starting very shortly. So I'm very excited. How are you feeling tonight, Mia?
I am just as excited as you are. We have some really interesting panelists with us today, so I'm really excited to see what they have to say.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't worry, you guys will be introduced to everybody in a minute. We're just starting off. We're getting ready, warming up a little bit. Oh yeah. Rohan, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Feeling excited. Ready to hear everyone's responses.
Oh yeah, me too. I am so looking forward to the Q&A section of this. Guys, it's my favorite part. I love hearing all of your questions, and the panelists love it. We all love it. You guys have such amazing questions. We'll get there in a minute. Don't worry. You'll have a space for everything you want to ask. It's going to be so much fun. Oh, hi, Naomi. She's coming to us from Concord, California. Very nice. And heard about it through the library. We have some of the library people here tonight. Oh, this is exciting. Oh yeah. I'm sure a lot of people heard about it through the library because, I go to the library all the time. Love reading, love books, and they have the Climate Careers Chat stuff constantly going. It's fantastic. Hey, look, somebody else. Hi, Holden from Alamo. Ooh, very nice. Also through the library. And hey, another person from the library. Fantastic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, more chats coming in. We're waiting. We're starting in a minute. We're just getting warmed up right now. So, guys, little secret to tell you, Rohan, this is his very first time being a moderator. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that just fantastic? Rohan, you excited?
Yeah, for sure. No, I am so excited to moderate with you today, Rachel. It'll be great.
Oh yeah, it'll be fantastic. I'm so excited to see you here. Have you here? Fantastic. This is going to be wonderful. All right. So, is everyone ready to get started on the Climate Careers Chat? Yeah, I think so. All right.
Rohan, can you refresh your page, please, really quickly?
All good?
All right. Wonderful. And I believe this is Rohan's turn to take over. Rohan, take it away.
Okay, guys, while we're all waiting for everyone to join us here today, all of you guys in the audience, feel free to answer our poll, which should pop up around now. And we have a couple of questions about the panelists for you guys, and you guys can try to answer them. And then we will reveal the correct answers once everyone has answered. So our first question is, where was Michael's interest in environmental activism sparked? And here we have Thailand, Costa Rica, and Wyoming. Our second question is, Cindy runs a small consulting firm that focuses on blank and environmental/energy innovation. Here we have water, soil, and temperature. Our third question is, Michael is the only land use planner to bring marine clean energy to blank cities. We have 1, 2, or 3. And our last question is that, was Cindy an environmental specialist in the Department of Fish and Wildlife for 27 years? And here we have true and or false. Feel free to answer that, and we will reveal the answers soon.
If you'd like to see this information, you can scan the QR code with your phone or click the link in the chat to go to SLIA's Instagram, which is @SustainableXLeaders.
Yep, absolutely. And all of the answers will be found on the Instagram for you guys. A little sneak peek in there. Oh yeah.
Okay, we have a little under half of the attendees participating, so we'll give you 1 more minute and then we will continue.
Fantastic. You guys answer those poll questions. If you don't know, just guess. We'll be revealing the answers in a minute.
Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to end the poll. And now you should see the results.
Okay, guys, I'm going to be going over the answers, and hopefully you got them correct, but totally fine if you didn't. They were really hard questions, and even I didn't know some of the answers when I read them. But really interesting facts about a very interesting panelist. Our first question the answer was Costa Rica. Our second question, the answer was water. Our third question, the answer was 2. And the answer for our last question was true. So hopefully you guys got that correct, but if not, no avail, because these panelists will be talking more about themselves today. Okay, now let's get started on our agenda for today's presentation. And here is a brief overview of our agenda. We're going to introduce ourselves and our team first, and then we'll start out with Cindy Darling's presentation, followed by a quick informational break where the audience can stretch their legs and grab a snack. Then we will hear the presentation from Michael Cass, and we will finish this program with our popular Q&A session and some final closing statements.
Oh yeah, I am very excited. And I would like to introduce to you everyone on this panel tonight. So hello there. My name is Rachel Kimball. I will be your moderator tonight along with Rohan. I'm one of the co-moderators. This is the 3rd Climate Careers Chat of 2022. That is fantastic. These are hosted by Sustainable Leaders in Action along with Sustainable Contra Costa and the Contra Costa County Library. We could not be doing this without any of those 3 groups. They're all fantastic. And we have some people from all of these lovely organizations that want to introduce themselves. So now I will hand over the floor to Mia, our SLIA's Climate Careers Chat intern.
Hi, everyone. My name's Mia, and like Rachel said, I'm the Climate Careers Chat intern for SLIA. I'm so excited to have you all here. Climate Careers Chat are my favorite things, and Michael and Cindy have some really fun stuff prepared for us, so I'm excited to share with you all. With that, I'll hand it off to Karina to introduce herself.
All right. Hello, my name is Karina. I am the graphic designs intern for Sustainable Leaders in Action. I'm glad to be here. And Ellie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Eliana Betrez. I'm a staff member at Sustainable Contra Costa, and I have the privilege to work with our youth-led team, SLIA. Sustainable Contra Costa is a community of citizens, educators, innovators, and organizations working together for ecologically sustainable, economically vibrant, and socially just communities for all. And I'm happy to share a little bit about what we do later on in the presentation. Nina, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Nina. I'm the newsletter intern for SLIA, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I hope you guys all have fun tonight.
Thank you.
Woohoo! Well, I kind of introduced myself before. My name is Rachel Kimball, and I'm one of your co-moderators. I am a junior at Carondelet High School, and I'm a volunteer with Sustainable Leaders in Action. That's why I'm here. And in the meantime, when I'm not doing this kind of thing, I love acting and baking. Now, I want to welcome our wonderful new first time moderator, Rohan.
Thank you, Rachel. My name is Rohan Tiaki. I am a sophomore at Heritage High School here in Brentwood, and I have been a member and now intern for SLIA for around 5 months. I joined because of the climate rally in March, and I enjoy environmental policy and all forms of earth science. In my free time, I love playing the cello and learning new languages. Okay, those are some wonderful introductions, but now we have to welcome our special co-host for this event, the Contra Costa County Library. Let's give some claps for them in the chat. Here representing them tonight is our fabulous librarian, Jackie Higgins. She will talk to us a little bit about the library.
I would love to talk about the library. I talk about it every chance I get. My name is Jacqueline Higgins. I work at the Antioch Library. Yes, I can attest that Rachel does come in frequently. She's one of my library patrons. As you can see on your screen, we love sustainability at Contra Costa County Library. We have a wonderful library of things. Check it out. Get the pun, check it out. But I would like to honor SLIA by a little mention that they have state recognition from the California Library Association. This month, they were honored in their newsletter that came out. There's an article about sustainable libraries all through all through California, and SLIA was recognized. So congratulations, you guys do an amazing job. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you, Jackie, for that wonderful introduction. And now our amazing panelists, Cindy Darling and Michael Cass, have joined us as panelists, and we are extremely excited for you to hear all about them. But first, we're going to play a little game of Two Truths and a Lie to get to know our first panelist, Cindy Darling, a Walnut Creek City Council member. So go ahead and try to guess which fun fact is the lie. And Cindy, if you want to read these out.
Okay, so the two truths and a lie, and I had to work hard on this one. I lived on a mountain in the Rockies. I spent time at an ashram in India, or choice number 3, I'd hiked across the Alps. So you can pick out which one's a truth and which one's a lie. Or two truths.
Ooh, we have a question here. Cindy, can you tell us more about what an ashram is?
That's where you go and you study beneath a yogi and learn the meanings of life and yoga and all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay, hopefully that cleared up some confusion, but if you guys could answer in the chat, and that would be great.
Awesome. We'll give it like 30 more seconds. About 82% of you have answered the question. All right, we'll stop it there. Cindy, which one was the lie?
I've never been to an ashram in India, but I've done the other ones. The ashram always sounded like fun, and a friend of mine, my neighbor, went to do it, and she came back with all these weird yoga things, like breathing in and out of your nose like this, and it just looked like a lot of fun, but I haven't done that yet.
And about 9% of you answered that one correctly, so we stumped you.
Okay, let's start Cindy's presentation. I will stop sharing, and Cindy, if you wanted to take over from here, that would be great.
Okay, oops. Yeah. All right, go ahead and start the thing. Thank you guys for coming today. Come on, there we go. My name is Cindy Darling. I am a Walnut Creek City Council member, and I want to talk to you about my career and how I got to a City Council position after a career in sustainability. So why was I interested in this? I'm a little bit older than most of the other people on this. I grew up in the 70s when environmentalism was really just beginning to take off. My family was very active out of doors. My parents were active in the community. They started the first recycling center. There didn't used to be recycling cans that everybody could just throw their stuff in. You had to take it to a recycling center. So I learned those values from my parents, and I learned to love the out of doors. I wasn't sure what to do with that love of the out of doors. And I remember it was this backpacking trip with my family, and I was trying to explain to my parents that I wanted to be a biologist, but there were no jobs for biologists at that time. And what my dad told me is, if you have something that you really want to do and you really, really, really work hard at it, even if everybody tells you there's no jobs in it, you can always make it work. And so that's my first lesson, is if you want to do something, there's always a way to make it work. So what I did after that was I went to UC Davis, and I got a degree in wildlife and fisheries biology. And wildlife and fisheries biology is the study of fish and wildlife and their environment. And one of the things that I was most interested in was, what are the factors that are affecting the fish and wildlife populations? And while I was at UC Davis, I was originally thinking I was just going to go do office jobs, but I discovered it was really a lot of fun to work out in the field. I was a field biologist for about 10 years. I worked for the Forest Service up in Lassen National Forest. I worked for the Peregrine Fund. This was when DDT was affecting the populations of raptors, and the peregrines were on the endangered species list. They were being reintroduced through captive breeding. And then when the young birds were ready to release, somebody needed to go live in the backcountry and watch the birds and take care of them. So I was a peregrine mother in Rocky Mountain National Park. That's where that truth came from. And then I worked for the it was Department of Fish and Game now. Now it's Department of Fish and Wildlife. But I worked for them for a lot of years. I spent time, you can see me there using my hand sampling gear, which was how one of the ways we actually used to catch the fish that we were working on. I did a lot of different projects throughout Fish and Game. I worked in the field, the one with the Kentucky Fried Chicken. We were all working to get rid of an introduced species that had shown up in the Tulare Lake Basin, and it was threatening to get into the Delta. And that was just one of those factors that was going to affect the fish and wildlife in the Delta. And so we were sent down there to try to figure out what they were doing and to try to figure out a way to manage them. And we ended up eradicating them. So these were just 10 of the most wonderful years of my life, because you were working out in the field, you got to see great things, you got to do all kinds of fun stuff. It wasn't always down in the flatlands. I got to go up to the mountains. I got to live in the backcountry. I got to row down the river and count salmon that were coming up to spawn. And I learned a tremendous amount about the natural world through observing and measuring populations and studying the factors that were affecting the fish and wildlife that I was working on. But one of the things that I really started to notice towards the end of, this was my 20s, and the 20s are a great time to work outdoors. But one of the things I realized was, particularly when it came to some of the endangered species I was working with, what I was doing was carefully monitoring their decline and not doing anything to really change that decline. I mean, other than saying it's happening. And so I decided at the end of my 20s, when I was done enjoying the out of doors, that maybe I'd think about doing something else. And it really came to a head one day. It was a very cold November day, and we were rowing down the Stanislaus River in a boat that smelled like dead salmon, and it was pouring rain, and my rain gear had started to leak. And the water got high enough in the boat that the radio shorted out. So we had no more tunes. And it was really, I was like, okay, I'm done with field work. I've learned a lot. I know a lot more about fish and wildlife than I ever thought I would. But it was time to go on to the inside years. And that's my second lesson, is as you go through your career, you're going to be doing this for a lot of years. Never be afraid to reevaluate what it is you're doing and find a way to take what you've learned and apply it in a different way and learn and grow as you go along. So my 30s and 40s are what we refer to as the inside years. And every wildlife and fisheries biologist just dreams of a day where you can go and you could talk to people in meetings and write memos and talk on the phone. It's not exactly wildlife biology, but what I was doing, I worked for a whole variety of different agencies. And what we were trying to do is look at the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta and That's where all the water, most of the water for the Bay Area comes from. It's also the home to 100 and some odd different species, including a number of rare and endangered or threatened and endangered species, particularly salmon runs, delta smelt, longfin smelt, and a whole bunch of other native species that have been in decline. And so working for all these different agencies, we were trying to find a collaborative model where we could go in and redo the plumbing in the Delta, how the Delta is operated, the kind of habitat that's in the Delta. And we came out with a lot of reports. We came out with a lot of good ideas. We came out with some good restoration projects in the Delta. And it's something that I think my grandchildren will probably be fighting about. And so the things that I really learned during the inside years were things like when you're sitting down with a group of people that have very diverse interests, you have to listen to them and look and see what it is that they really are looking for. There's always what they're saying they're wanting, but what's their underlying interest? What has brought them to the table? And so you kind of look for those interests, and then you try to find a win-win situation where you get what you need and they get what they need. One of the other things that was really important in all these negotiations is to kind of come to a common understanding of what the baseline, what the information was that we were making decisions from. So a lot of reports were prepared, a lot of restoration projects got underway. We planned and planned for how to move water through the Delta, and it went to 2 tunnels, it went to no tunnels, it went to 2 tunnels, it's back now to 1 tunnel. And somewhere along the line, I decided that my inside years were fun, but my kids were in middle school and middle schoolers can get in trouble. And so I ended up retiring from the state early and going to watch the middle schoolers and leaving the Delta for another group to deal with. And they're still working on it. But that's where I took everything that I had learned through that process and put it to work here locally. And I used to talk to friends of mine about now I was going to come work in my very own watershed. And so I applied for the Walnut Creek Planning Commission and spent 10 years on the Planning Commission. And from a sustainability standpoint, that is a really key position because that's where all the decisions about where's the housing going to go, how is the transportation going to work, how is the city going to deal with the impacts of new development? Where are we going to keep sprawling outwards? Are we going to be more compact? What are we going to require for those new developments as far as sustainability measures? Are we going to require them to have retention basins on site so that the runoff doesn't harm the bay? Are we going to require them to have water use efficiency measures so that they're using water reliably when they put up their landscaping? So there's a lot of different things that I learned on the Planning Commission, and I spent 10 years there. And then I went on, I was thinking I was done, and I ran a friend of mine's campaign for the city council in 2018. And I looked at it and I thought, well, heck, if he could do it, I could do it. And so in 2020 or 2019, I started thinking about running for city council. In 2020. I didn't really plan on COVID hitting and having to run a campaign where you were completely virtual, but it worked. I learned how to Zoom, which was, a fun thing to do. But I ran on a platform of taking everything that I'd learned from my career in fish and wildlife biology, my career in environmental negotiation, my career in environmental decision-making, and bring that to bear on what the city council does. And that's why you see the little river up in the upper corner of that was my symbolism for, what I was bringing to city council. So since I've been on city council now for 2 years. And there's 2 of the things that we're working on that are really important in my mind, from a from a climate perspective. The first one of those is the housing element. Every city is going through a process right now to update their housing element. And I think you'll hear more about that tonight, but it's how is the city going to manage its growth so that there's room for all of you guys when you're adults to move into your own house. Where are we going to put that growth? And that has a big climate impact, because if you have growth that's spread out throughout the city that people have to commute to by car, it ends up with more vehicle miles traveled and more greenhouse gas emissions. If you concentrate the development downtown closer to transit, it gives people the option to not have to drive everywhere. So we're working on that plan right now. We've submitted our housing elements to the state, and we're waiting to hear back from them. The good thing about the city of Walnut Creek is we have done a lot of planning. My 10 years on the Planning Commission and my time on City Council, we've done a lot of work on where growth was going to go. And so we are not going to have to, do not expect to have to rezone anything. We have designed our city so that there's enough capacity to house as many people as the state thinks we need to be ready for. So that's the first thing, that's the housing element. The second thing that I've been working on is we have a climate action plan that we adopted back when I was on the Planning Commission. And we've done really good at getting to the goals that we've set for ourselves. I think we're actually already ahead of our goals, but the state and the legislature have changed what our goals are. And we've learned a lot more about what it is we should be doing to make our city more sustainable. So we are in the process of updating our climate action plan with a sustainability action plan that will have kind of 23 different elements. But the work that we've done to date really has said that in that sustainability plan, there are two big ticket items. One is continuing to plan to reduce the number of miles that people have to travel. We're going to have to keep working on that. We're going to have to work, because transportation is one of the biggest greenhouse gas emitters. So we have to figure out how to get people out of their cars, and when people get in their cars, how to make sure that those are electric vehicles that they have an opportunity to charge at their workplace, when they shop, and at their home. So those are the two big areas. We also have a bunch of other things that we're looking to do, like increasing the use of recycled water, increasing water conservation, making our climate plan more equitable so that everybody has a chance to participate, encouraging solar, encouraging solar with battery backup, because that's one of the things that we're seeing is that as solar has become more prevalent in California, we actually need that battery element to help us through. It's called the duck-billed curve, but it's the part of the day between 4 and 9 at night when solar is not generating. We are seeing demand continue to go up, and we don't have the solar resources. So we're having to kick in natural gas powered plants. And so that's not good. So we're trying to find a way to take care of the hours between 4 and 9. So that's the sustainability plan. It's right now, we've seen a couple drafts of it. We've provided a lot of input to our staff, and we're hoping we're going to come back to it in November. One of the big questions for us is the other thing besides the transportation is the natural gas use in houses. And right now, we are looking at what is the state going to be requiring for development as far as electrification of houses, and then what else should the city be requiring, and what else should the city be incentivizing. With that push towards electrification of houses, there's two ways to do it. You can do it the regulatory way, where you say thou shalt do it, or you could do it the carrot way of saying, well, if you want to do it, here's the money to help you do it, or here's some assistance with the permits to help you get that going.
Sorry to interrupt. This is just a 5-minute warning.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just about there. But anyway, so we're going to have to go through and figure out on the electrification of houses, how we go about doing that. Do we do carrots? Do we do sticks? Do we do a combination? A lot of the housing stock in Walnut Creek was built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when conservation wasn't that important. Insulation wasn't that important. So we really need to upgrade our housing stock in the city. So those are the two big things that we've got going that are in the career zone, or in the, I keep going on to career and not climate, in the climate zone, is sustainability and housing element. The other thing we're working on this year is the city council did decide that we have some things that we can't do with our current budget, and those are important things. One of those is implementing the sustainability plan. We also have some infrastructure needs, some hours for the library, some work on homelessness. So we are putting a we have put a half-cent sales tax, Measure O, that's going to be on the ballot in November. So that's one of the things that I'm starting to work on now. And that's important from a sustainability standpoint. It's important from a community standpoint. And it's important for that quality of life that we all moved to Walnut Creek for. So that's kind of my career and how a fish and wildlife biologist ended up on the Walnut Creek City Council and how that career has kind of moved along. So thank you guys for inviting me, and I will stop sharing my screen, I think.
Thank you so much, Cindy. That is very cool. It's like you've had so many careers. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah. Okay, so now guys, it is time for our quick 3-minute break where you will get to hear from SLIA and SCOCO about the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge.
All right. So this Climate Careers Chat is brought to you by, in part of SLIA, or Sustainable Leaders in Action. We are the student-led organization of Sustainable Contra Costa, and we consist of high schoolers and college students who are all passionate about the environment. We have done many amazing projects, and our goal is to continue and to promote sustainable practices within our community to ensure a greener future and empower the next generation of climate activists. Please join. It's really fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Karina. So now I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge. This is a free online resource where you will find practical solutions and local resources to help you save money, energy, water, and waste. And you can see how each of the actions on our platform improves your household's carbon footprint and tracks your progress to make an impact on climate change. So to date, we have almost reached our goal of 3,500 households for the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge. We have saved tons of CO2, and these are just some of our stats thus far, which is great. If you are interested in joining the challenge, it's really quick and you can scan the QR code with your phone to learn more. Next slide, please. Awesome. So this is a little bit of information about our categories, actions, and resources. So we have a variety of different categories in the challenge, and you're able to find actions depending on what category you're specifically interested in. Once you choose a category, then you'll see the different actions. They range in levels of difficulty. A lot of them are individual actions that you can incorporate into your daily life and will really make a difference in terms of saving money and energy. Additionally, all of these actions have specific resources on the bottom of them. So the resources on the bottom, some of them include our Bay Rent Home Plus program, in addition to other rebates, credits, and just organizations that you can work with depending on your zip code. Something fun for the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge is that if you take actions, if you complete actions, you can earn prizes. So you can mark on the challenge that you've completed an action and you can get a free yard of mulch from Eco Mulch, or you can enter drawings to win gift cards from different from different places around Contra Costa County. Thank you, and I hope some of you sign up.
Well, thank you guys. I don't know about you, but I love free stuff. So go sign up for the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge. Not only is it free, but you get to save money. Isn't that fantastic? All right. And our next presenter is Michael Cass, who is the principal planner at the City of Dublin currently. And guys, who's also a former SCOCO board member. Woo! Oh yeah. Michael will now read out to you his fun facts, the 2 truths and a lie, and we'll see. We'll do another little poll so you guys can participate. Michael, take it away.
Well, good evening, everyone. Jumping right into my 2 truths and a lie. I am currently a city planner in my hometown. I have served on 3 nonprofit boards, and I've hiked Machu Picchu. Just give you a second to think. So I'll tell you, I have hiked Machu Picchu. Sorry, I jumped ahead. I'll let people answer first.
Hopefully no one votes for the 3rd one.
What was it like hiking Machu Picchu?
It was amazing. Some of the best views in the world, and just everyone is in utter awe as you're just looking at the natural landscape and beauty. And there's alpacas all over the place. It was pretty magical.
That's awesome. We have about 3/4 of the participants who have answered the poll, so we'll give them a few more seconds and then we'll show them the results. All right. Which one was the lie, Michael?
I am not currently a city planner in my hometown. So that one is a lie, but I will add a little bit to that with an explanation as I go into my presentation.
Excellent. Well, now we will go ahead and stop screen sharing, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, well, good evening again, everyone. Again, my name is Michael Cass. I currently am principal planner with the City of Dublin. My career has primarily focused as being a city planner, which I'll elaborate on. Start with giving you kind of an overview of what I'm going to be talking about this evening, very similar to the organization of Cindy's presentation. So I'm going to start by talking about some of my early influences, and then a little bit on my educational background, and then into my work and my career journey, talking about experience both in local government and on nonprofit boards. And then I'll end with some career advice that I have based on things I've learned throughout my journey. Okay, so first and foremost, I think talking about early influences, I think for most of us, our parents are some of the biggest influences that we have, and both in good and bad ways. So for me, both my parents worked, they're both retired now, in the engineering field. My dad focused.
Michael. If you want to put your presentation in presentation mode, we don't see it that way right now. Thank you, so sorry.
That's okay. It jumped onto the other screen. I apologize for that. I'm going to switch over. Can you see it now?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I think for many of us, our parents were some of the biggest influences for us early in life. For me, both my parents worked in the engineering field. My dad worked as an environmental engineer as his primary focus. My mom as electrical designer, and then later as a project manager. From both of these experiences, I was exposed to the built environment and construction at a very early age. When I was an infant, I traveled with my mom to Alaska, actually, when she was touring job sites. Growing up, like many of us, we color and coloring books. I used construction drawings as what my tool was for actually kind of drawing and doodling on. Also, as a young child, I distinctly remember with my parents having an argument over recycling and making sure that the aluminum cans went in the appropriate place. And I think just from a very young age, environmentalism was built into my DNA. I think from a standpoint of exposure to my parents, some of the things that I also learned was what I didn't want to be. So I saw the long hours that they worked and the heavy load of commitments. And I swore up and down that I wanted to do anything but and be very far and separated from being an engineer. One of the other things that was an important kind of early influence for me was travel. And I'm very fortunate that my parents instilled a sense of exploring the world very early on. So I've been to close to 30 countries at this point, far near both, and traveled both near and far, and had some pretty amazing experiences exploring the outdoors, hiking, camping, watching wildlife. So I'm early on, there was some discussion about Costa Rica being a really pivotal trip for me in my experience. And kind of the really important moment that I remember, and this is somewhere that I went when I was in 4th or 5th grade. Late at night, we went out to the beach and we watched from a distance as a sea turtle came out on the beach and laid eggs, and just kind of watched in silence so as not to disturb the turtle, and just experienced nature up close. And it was just such a memorable experience looking and watching that by the moonlight and the reflection off of the ocean. And just really being inspired and seeing how precious life is. And then at times traveling into bigger cities and seeing trash and the challenges that we have and impacts we're having on our environment, and kind of how those two areas are connected. And then finally, I think one of the early influences that I had was from my experience working both side by side with friends, as well as with my parents, and doing a lot in the work of volunteering and early advocacy. One such experience was when I was in high school, and our good family friends passed away. And there was an effort to demolish their home that they had lived in for close to 50 years. And they were going to, there was interest in demolishing that home and putting in a subdivision of many, many homes. And just and on this property, there were some just majestic oak trees, and it was adjacent to a creek, and really just a precious piece of our habitat. And my stepmom and I, along with some other individuals in our neighborhood, kind of actively worked and were successful in having that property preserved as permanent parkland. So it was through our advocacy efforts and fundraising efforts that we were able to do that. And that was really my first exposure to city planning. Little did I know that that was going to be the direction that I ultimately went. So now, kind of transitioning after those early influences, I went to college. I stayed pretty local. I went to St. Mary's College, which is in Moraga. Didn't know what I wanted to study. So I was a generalist. I got my bachelor's degree in communication. Really felt that doing something, my focus was on enhancing skills that I thought would be beneficial no matter what direction I ultimately went in. During that time at St. Mary's, I had a series of odd jobs. I worked in an art gallery. I worked in my dad's environmental engineering firm. I tutored, I babysat, a variety of things, which is something that I would highly, highly encourage current students to do. Just expose yourself to as much as possible. I subsequently actually went to UC Davis and got a certificate in land use and environmental planning, but that was actually a couple of years later after I had more of a sense of the direction I wanted to go, and have done a series of other forms of continuing education throughout the last decade or so. When I was in college, I mentioned I had a series of jobs, and one of the jobs that I had was tutoring, which I did for a number of families. One of those families that I actually tutored for was for Stephen Falk, who was the former city manager for the city of Lafayette. And he is the one who formally introduced me to city planning. Did not at the time have a background in that area, but he had seen me close tutoring his kids, and he felt I had a natural knack for it, and he encouraged me to look into and pursue that as an opportunity. And forever thankful for him. He actually helped me get my first internship, which was actually with the city of Lafayette, where he lived, where he was the city manager, which is also my hometown. So as you can see, I had a variety of experiences, and that kind of brought me up to the point of working for the city of Lafayette. At the time with the city of Lafayette, I had a planning internship, and concurrently, I had an interim gig working in our Parks, Trails, and Recreation department as a recreation program supervisor, where I put together a series of programs and events focusing in our local youth. And then I subsequently, after Lafayette, worked for 2 other cities, which I'll elaborate on a little bit later. So with the city of Lafayette, as I mentioned, I started with a planning internship, and I went in not knowing what a city planner is. So, and many of you may not know what a city planner is either. So to simplify what a city planner is it's a staff member that either works for a municipality or for the private sector. And they assist in developing and implementing the regulations associated with the built environment. So that is a little bit of a mouthful, but basically what that has to do with is what type of uses, whether it be a home, an office park, a retail business, a school, and where they go, and then also what they look like. How big will they be? It's controlling growth in essence, and what activities are going to occur where in a city. After my internship was for close to a year. I was fortunate enough that I proved my worth, and it ultimately turned into a permanent position. And I had a 12-year tenure with the city of Lafayette. I worked my way up to being a senior planner with the city. During my tenure, I worked on a variety of areas. Planners mainly fall into 2 distinct areas. Typically, you either fall on the development side or the policy side. And in Lafayette, I worked in both. From the development side, basically what that meant is I helped the public, whether it be some residents who lived in the community, a developer who was building something in the community, or business owners. I helped them with various projects and taking them through the public process. So that can be everything from a business that wants to install a sign, to a new office building, to a subdivision, kind of all over the map. And I was fortunate that I was exposed to a wide range of projects during my tenure with the city. In addition to that, I also had the great opportunity to work on the policy side of things. I was pretty fortunate that about halfway through my tenure with the city, our community development director, who was the head of our department, she retired. And she was working on a number of pretty special projects, two of which were staffing all of our public art efforts, and then the second being all of our sustainability and environmental efforts. And seeing the opportunity, I advocated for myself to be able to take on one of those projects with the preference of being able to take on all of our sustainability efforts. Fortunately, my supervisor had confidence in me and gave me that opportunity. And I got to work on a number of pretty exciting things during that time. The big thing was I staffed our environmental task force, which was a group of community volunteers, similar to what Cindy spoke about, that she served on the Planning Commission. It was similar to the Planning Commission, where it was a group of volunteers that were appointed by our city council, and they made a series of policy recommendations that ultimately went to the city council for adoption. Some of those things that we had the ability to do is we developed the contents of our environmental action plan. And the environmental action plan is very similar to a climate action plan, where it's the blueprint of over a 10-15 year period, all of the environmental programs and policies that we hope to implement. It's really setting the roadmap. And that was a pretty exciting effort. A couple of other things that I had the opportunity to do when I was there is I brought property assessed clean energy programs to the city, which was the ability for residents to pay for environmental upgrades to their properties, and then pay for those costs through their property taxes, rather than having to come up with the funds up front. So it was an additional way that people could actually replace their windows, improve their insulation, install solar panels, as some examples. And a lot of that is important because much of Contra Costa County, like Cindy mentioned, has older housing stock that is not built to be sustainable. And so it was a way to actually help and incentivize and address those issues. Another really interesting thing that I had the opportunity to work on when I was with the city is we developed our first downtown creeks master plan. And I'm showing a couple of images on the screen. So this is an example of some of the planning that we did. So there was an existing culvert. This is one location in our downtown, and we were envisioning how can we change that. And the image on the bottom is potentially how that particular creek segment of Lafayette Creek could be transformed by removing the culvert, restoring the natural habitat, putting in a bridge, and kind of making it accessible for our community.
Sorry to interrupt. This is a 5-minute warning.
Okay, perfect. After that, after my 12 years with the city of Lafayette, I transitioned to the city of Concord, where my focus was strictly on policy. So I actually led the policy team. I was there for about 2.5 years. A couple interesting things we did during that time is we brought forward a community choice energy program. In that circumstance, we selected Marin Clean Energy, which was discussed earlier. Marin Clean Energy is basically a third party that procures electricity rather than having to get it from the public utility, but still relying on the infrastructure. The benefit of making Marin Clean Energy available to our community, which we did at this, I did in Lafayette as well, but the benefit of doing that was a higher percentage of renewables and the ability for properties to opt up to be getting electrical power from 100% renewables, rather than at the time what PG&E was offering, which was 33%. I brought forward a polystyrene ban, so we banned styrofoam in our community. And then we also brought forward and worked on a bike share program, which unfortunately has not been implemented after I left, but it was up to the point of approval. I, after that, transitioned to the City of Dublin, which is where I'm at now, where I'm focusing more on housing-related issues. So one of the big things, and probably the biggest thing that I'm currently working on as Cindy mentioned as well was creating our housing element update. So a housing element is part of our general plan, which is basically the constitution for a city. It sets all of the major goals and policies for how the community is going to grow. The housing element is a little bit unique in that it's required to be updated every 8 years by a city. And it includes a number of things, one of which is where that growth will go and for what income levels housing is going to be planned for. And then also it includes a roadmap of policies that are going to be implemented to help aid the ability for housing to be constructed. As Cindy mentioned, it's really one of the most crucial things that a city can do to ensure that a community is built from a sustainable fashion, to make sure that housing is built close to services. That's not just transportation, but it's also close to schools, close to work, close to grocery stores, things of that nature, so that we can decrease our greenhouse gas emissions, decrease our vehicles miles traveled, and just have an overall benefit for our built environment. In addition to work, I've also had the experience of volunteering on a number of nonprofit boards, including Sustainable Lafayette, Sustainable Contra Costa, and I currently am on the American Planning Association California Chapter Northern Section Board, which is the group of planners for all of Northern California. One of the things I highly recommend all of you do is volunteer with local nonprofits. It's really a great way to get exposed and give back to your communities. So as part of my presentation, I was hoping to wrap up because I think what I wish I knew at the time, some pretty simple tips that can help you if you're trying to get careers in the sustainability field. First and foremost is to intern. When you are in college, find an internship. It is very different experience from what you will get from a traditional job. It doesn't have to be in the area that you're wanting to go in, but you will get exposed to things that are above what you normally would get exposed to as an entry-level position. It's highly, highly recommended. You'll also get really great mentoring. Secondly, network, meet people, don't be shy, introduce yourself. You never know when or where you're going to meet somebody that's important, and those people will help open doors for you. The work environment is really challenging right now, and that's something that was super beneficial for me, and encourage the same for all of you. Next, once you get your foot in the door, particularly early in your career, always say yes. Be open to new experiences, take on new challenges, express your interest to grow, advocate for yourself. That will open up experiences that you didn't even know you were looking for and open up really great opportunities. Next is balance your work and personal life. Early on in your career, most people are really driven and will work long hours and do what's necessary, but you want to avoid burnout. You want to continue enjoying what you're doing. It's important to work hard, play hard, and have that balance. And then finally, and what I think is probably most important, is pursue your passion. So find something you enjoy and make sure you go for it. And that's the conclusion of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was a very good presentation. And I especially love the last part, all the career advice. That's personally why I like coming to all of these, just because I'm in high school. I don't really know what I want to do with my career, and stuff like that to hear is just amazing and very helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we are on to our Q&A session. Guys, my favorite part's here. Woohoo! Oh yeah. So for the Q&A session, our audience, you are more than welcome to get involved. Please do. Please indicate which person on the panel that you are directing your question to. It can be either to Michael or to Cindy or to both. and we will dish out these questions and have the panelists answer them for you. It's very, very fun. Please use the Q&A thing at the top of your screen on Zoom, and we'll get started. Rohan, would you like to take the first question? I believe we have one. We have two already. Wow.
Awesome.
Great.
And let's take the time right now to unshare this presentation, and then we can just focus on the panelists answering. Thank you, team.
For sure. Okay, I'm gonna start off with the first question by an anonymous attendee. For Cindy, was it difficult to move between careers? Did you ever feel pressure to keep a job? I struggle with this sometimes because I feel like I'm giving up if I switch directions in careers. Okay, Cindy, would you like to take it from here?
Yeah, it's interesting because if you switch too often, you can be not giving each option enough time to really grow into it. But you also have to be willing to, like I did, when I turned 30, I'm like, okay, I want to do something different. And then the same thing when I retired early and went into local government. You just have to know, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Kind of write your list of pros and cons and go ahead and follow your heart. One of the things I used to do is I'd flip a coin. Heads, I do this, tails, I do that. And then I'd live with it for 24 hours. And that always told me what I should do.
Yeah, and I would just add to that. I think transitioning careers is really beneficial. Most people I know who have made a pretty significant pivot, they wish that they had done it sooner, particularly if you're doing a pivot where there's at least some correlation between the two areas, and you can bring the skill set you have from your first career to your next career.
Some really, really insightful answers. Thank you both of the panelists for answering that question. Moving on, from Tati to both speakers, what is your favorite part of working for your community?
Michael, you want to go first?
Sure. For me, what I really, really enjoy is when you can see a tangible benefit of something that you do to help someone out. And I think particularly during COVID, that has been something that I've had the opportunity to be exposed to a lot more. So as an example, when we had all of the shutdowns, a number of businesses were really struggling. Everyone was staying home. People weren't patronizing the businesses the way that they historically had, and had the opportunity. I worked on our outdoor seating regulations, and so really created a way where businesses could change the way that they were operating and allow them to continue to thrive in our modified environment, and helped keep some businesses afloat that otherwise wouldn't have made it.
And I think the thing that I like the best is for years I was at the staff level, and now I'm up at the policy level in the city council. And I love going out and listening to people in the community tell me what it is they're interested in, like you guys are all doing, and then finding a way to work with staff to help address their needs. I think that's my favorite part of it. And I do sometimes dive back in and become a staff person. And my staff is always really good at telling me that I am not that anymore. I must go back up to the upper level.
Well, thank you. Very insightful answers once again. Now we have our next question from Maria. For older adults transitioning into environmental fields without experience and education, is there any other way to get into the field without going into an internship? And this is for both panelists. Michael, if you want to start, go ahead.
That's a really good question. So yes, you can always do it. So I think you just have to believe in yourself. Some paths are going to be more challenging than others, though. I think the best thing that you can do is, if you're transitioning into the environmental arena or the sustainability arena, and that's not your background, is find ways that you can expose yourself to it that aren't in the traditional work environment. So I think a really good way, if you're not going to go the internship route, is volunteer with a local nonprofit. work with an environmental nonprofit. There are a number of them in our area, including Sustainable Contra Costa is one example. That would be a really great way to get some experience and some exposure that you can then talk about when you would go through the interview process and trying to get a job.
Yeah. And when you're looking at internships, not all internships are unpaid. I mean, ones I did in college sure were unpaid, but I got per diem for one of them. And it's awkward because sometimes it feels like, especially if you're older, you're taking a step back to go do that internship. But sometimes you have to kind of take that step back to go forward. The other thing you could do is find another job which you already have the experience for that's proximate to what you want to do, so that you get to know the people and you could show them what Michael said earlier, which is always be willing to say yes, be able to say that you're interested in it. And sometimes you can just kind of slide on over. And so don't be afraid to go back, but don't be afraid to go sideways.
This has just been amazing. I mean, I'm learning so much just from listening to you guys today, especially in these really great questions. Moving on to the next one. This is one for Michael. Zach has asked, was your experience in Costa Rica through EPI's the Ecology Project International's Costa Rica program? Because what you described was the exact same experience I had, if you wanted to talk about that.
It was not. It was, I honestly don't remember the name of the tour that we did, but it was just something that my parents and I did, and there were a handful of other adults, but it was not that program. I think there's a number of great programs, and they change all the time. So I'm glad you had a similar experience to mine, and hopefully it was as memorable for you as it was for me.
That's awesome. We've got another question from Michael once again. And this anonymous attendee says, I saw you said that since you didn't know what to do in college, you choose to do classes that would give you like good general skills. I was wondering if you thought this was good, or would you recommend also looking at a bunch of classes in different topics to see if you find something else you like?
I think each person's going to be different for how this works best for you. It worked well and it didn't work well. So it worked well in the sense that I had really good experience, and that when I graduated, I had a variety of options that were available to me. It didn't work well because when I graduated, I still had no clue what I wanted to do. And I think you just have to trust your gut. And I think, kind of similar to what I've said, exposing yourself to as many things as possible, I think is always a good thing. And if you're lucky, you'll expose yourself to something that you really enjoy, that you find a passion for, and you'll know that that's the direction to go. Or if you don't find it, keep looking.
Yeah. And one of the things to know, that calculus they have you do in college, you will never use that again. So find different classes that are things that you're interested in. You know, there was a program at Davis where you could kind of create your own major. And so no matter what, there's always a way to put it together. And if you're finding yourself bored in your classes, I remember I was pre-med when I started. And I remember sitting there in organic chemistry, looking around me going, I don't really want to work with these people for the rest of my life. And that's when I decided to switch over and do wildlife and fisheries biology, because those people were more fun and they were doing things that I thought were interesting. And they, you know, I didn't like the sight of blood. I would have made a horrible doctor. So don't be afraid to change.
Thank you so much for those responses. It's really helpful for all of the students here who are planning to go to college in the near future. And we have another question from one of our SLIA interns himself, from Kyle. And he asked, what's the hardest part about doing city planning?
I'll tell you what the hardest part is from a political standpoint, is that people do not like change.
Yeah.
And whenever, you know, City of Walnut Creek is allowing people to build more dense in some areas that are traditional single family neighborhoods. And those are difficult decisions. People, there's an expression, you guys have all heard it, NIMBYs, not in my backyard. And people, they want a more climate efficient city, but they also don't want that big development right next door to them. That is one of the hardest things with city planning. I don't know, Michael from
I would agree, but I'm going to say something slightly different. I think one of the big challenges is, as a planner, you're only making recommendations. And what those recommendations are will ultimately not always be what the decision is.
You mean
And
your
that-
city council doesn't do what you tell them to do?
Not saying that. I think that can happen at times, but I think there also can be, as a planner, I'm looking at it from planning policies and planning procedures, but there can be financial implications of decisions, and there can be other factors that come into play. When you're looking at it from big picture, that's not always something that happens. So I'll give an example. So I had a project once with the city. We had joined MCE, not where I'm at now. And there was a discussion about what to do with the city's electrical accounts, whether they would increase and have a higher percentage of renewable energy used for the plan that they enrolled, if they would stay in one that was higher than PG&E, or if they would go back to and stay with PG&E. And the environmental advocate in me wanted them to opt up, have everything 100% renewable energy, cost a little bit more money, but ultimately the outcome was the city council was split in their decision, and they opted to not opt up their accounts because the financial implications for that community at that time were more important.
But now MCE rates are below PG&E. So for this year, we're good. But you're right. And one of the things as a city council person, I came into this, I have my own perspective, but there are 5 people, and I can't do anything without at least 3 people voting with me. And so you have to be able to convince the people that you're working with that to go with you in a direction. But we are all deep green in Walnut Creek, so we're good.
And I want to make a distinction. So Cindy, as a council member, can try to convince her colleagues, but as a staff member, I make a professional recommendation that's neutral, that's presenting all of the sides, and then ultimately leave the decision up to the council.
And it's democracy, and it's occasionally messy, but it's the best system going. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, both of you guys. We have another question for both of you. For city planning projects that you're involved in, do you tend to have a set role, or do you end up doing a lot of different things?
It's going to depend on how the organization is run. So larger agencies, like I have friends who work for the city and county of San Francisco, they tend to have smaller components of a bigger project that they'll work on. So as an example, there's going to be individuals that will be reviewing the aesthetics of the project. There will be individuals that will be reviewing the project from an environmental review standpoint. There will be transportation planners that get involved with the project. There will be a whole series of individuals that work on any given application. In a smaller agency, that tends to be less likely, and you tend to get involved and being kind of the project manager of a project as a whole, and really reviewing every aspect of it, which has been more of my experience.
Yeah, bigger cities are definitely more compartmentalized. Smaller cities, you get to be a jack of all trades, and there's trade-offs in both of those.
Thank you so much for those responses. Our next question is from Naomi, and they have asked, what are some upcoming projects that you are most excited about?
Cindy, why don't you take that one?
Okay, I'll take that one. One of the most challenging things in the Bay Area is to create housing that's affordable, especially to our lower income workers. You know, Walnut Creek has a big service economy, and one of the greenhouse gas impacts of that is that the people who do those service jobs cannot live here. They cannot afford it. They have to commute in from Concord or Antioch or Pittsburgh or Stockton or, you know, a long way away. So we have a couple affordable housing projects coming through the pipeline right now. One big one right at the corner of Civic and Ignacio, and it's always like a puzzle to put these together, because you have to find the different funding sources, and you have to find the person to run the project, and you have to find all the money to do all the work that you need. We have to put some power lines underground. We have to do some sidewalk improvements, but to put those puzzles together and come up with affordable housing is not only good for our service economy, it's good for our climate, and it's better for our city. It's more vibrant because it has people at different levels participating in the city. So that's one of the more exciting things that we're working on.
And I'll kind of tag team on that. So for me, it's very similar. It's also an affordable housing project that I'm working on. It's a 176 unit project close to our West Dublin, Pleasanton, BART station. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this project is it's the first project we have that's been submitted for a large scale multifamily project that was submitted after our objective standards were adopted, which I worked on and were adopted earlier this year. So it's a great way to see a policy that I worked on and actually then see how well it works from an implementation standpoint. And like Cindy, I mean, affordability is such a huge issue that we're facing way beyond the Bay Area, as a state, even greater than that. And it really does, it's one of the biggest aspects from a sustainability standpoint. So the more we can do to make homes affordable in the communities where people live and have them live and work together, we'll just have really huge benefits.
Thank you. That's fascinating that there's so many different parts to city planning. You guys have a lot to think about. All right, our next question comes from Ryan in the chat. Do you think there are more opportunities to transition careers into sustainability in the public or private sector?
Probably both. I mean, you think about the roles of the public and the private. The role of the public is to set the course of the policy, to take the state and federal funds and figure out what to do with them from sustainability. And then the role of the private is to come in and find ways to make new projects more sustainable and to advocate for individual projects that are coming forward. I don't know. What do you think, Michael?
So I hate to say this, but I think there's going to be more opportunities in the private sector in this area than there will be in the public sector. I think the public sector is always going to have some financial limitations of what's done, whereas private sector typically has the greater ability from a financial investment standpoint, which is oftentimes what's needed to actually have sustainability efforts come to fruition. Saying that, I think the public sector is going to have a greater impact on sustainability, but I think there will be fewer opportunities there.
Hey.
Thank you, guys. We've got another question from an anonymous attendee. What is the best way for a community member to become involved in city planning without actually working for the city or county?
Well, every city has a city council, and then under that, a variety of committees or commissions that are just public volunteers. And so in Walnut Creek, we have a Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission, we have an Arts Commission, we have a Planning Commission, we have a Transportation Commission, we have a Design Review Commission, we have a Youth Commission. And each one of the spots in those commissions is filled by a volunteer who's interested in the city. In addition, we have ad hoc committees, like we have Police Chiefs Advisory Council. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion group that's working to help us redo some of our policies. So look for those as a way to get more involved from the city perspective. And of course, the other thing you can do is just start following projects in your area and be there and be a voice when those projects are being heard. The policy decision makers want to hear from the people in the city. And a lot of times when we hear from people, it's the neighbors on a project. And it can be really powerful to bring in people with other perspectives who want to see, who have a strong opinion about where their city should go. So it's show up at the commissions, volunteer for the commissions, let us know you care.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's participation, and participate however you can. I think that it can be writing letters, it can be attending meetings, it can be attending meetings via Zoom. So in a lot of ways, it's easier to do that now than it has been. And I would also indicate cities usually hear from people when they don't want something. Speak up if you do want something. Those voices are typically not heard.
Yeah, and the Zoom world has made things so much so much more accessible to us as decision makers. Don't hesitate to use it. We've gotten a lot more participation during COVID because people don't have to come down and sit at City Hall for 2 hours listening to us go on about something else to get their thoughts in.
Okay, and our next question is from another anonymous attendee. How important did you think your college choice was for your careers?
I think college choice it's interesting. You don't all have to go to Harvard and Princeton and Yale to succeed, but you have to find a place where you feel comfortable, where you can find your people, and where they have the kinds of things that you're interested in. Both of my kids are just now finishing up college, and they both found a place that they felt good, comfortable. Doesn't have to be Harvard, doesn't have to be Princeton, and it doesn't have to be Yale. You can be successful from Chico State or UC Davis, or, of course, I don't know if I could get into UC Davis anymore. Michael?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it all comes down to find the school that is right for you, whether that be a small or large school, whether it be close or near from home, but I think the most important thing is selecting something that is a place where you feel comfortable, that feels like your community, that's a place where you can thrive.
Awesome. So I have a question for Cindy and Michael. We have some questions in the chat that have to do with EVs. If that's something you would like to address right now, definitely, but we can also stay on topic if you'd like.
Well, I'll give you, I've been watching the chat, and electrical vehicle charging in multifamily housing is an equity issue, it's a sustainability issue, and it's a thorny issue. For new development, it's easy because they can design it into their electrical system and they can plan for that load. A lot of the multifamily housing in Walnut Creek was built in 1962, and the electrical panels there are not big enough to handle EV chargers. So it's something that is going to require carrots to get those EV charging stations. But it's important because we want everybody to have the access to an electrical vehicle. And if you're living in an apartment and there's no way to charge it, that's not going to work. So it's a thorny issue, but it's something that we're working on.
So, and related to that, that's why I think it's really important to get chargers in public locations. While it's less desirable than having it where you live, it's a really good opportunity to work around some of those constraints that you have with existing buildings that may be not designed to accommodate the load. And I just will put an additional plug out there. So if people are thinking about putting in EV chargers in their homes, or if you're talking to your parents about doing it or something of that nature, there are so many funding opportunities that are out there that can help make it more viable. Really, really encourage you to look into that.
Yeah, the new federal funding, along with a lot of the state funding, there's a lot of ways to do it. And I'll put on my MCE board member hat and say, and while you're at it, put in a battery too, so that way you can charge them during times when it won't impact the grid.
Awesome, thank you. The other EV question is, what are cities doing to promote electric vehicle adoption to meet statewide regulations such as the Advanced Clean Car Standards?
Do you want to take this one, Cindy?
I will punt this one because that is going to be an issue we're going to discuss as part of our sustainability action plan. And we need to look at it from an equity lens. We need to look at it from what is the city's ability to do that lens.
Awesome, thank you. To the remaining attendees, are there any questions you would like to ask as we wrap up? We'll give it a second. Moderators, do you have any questions that you're wondering?
I actually do have a question for both of you. I just want to know, what is one major highlight in your career, like overall, one thing you can think of? I know this is a very broad question. Whoever wants to go first.
You go first, Michael.
The first thing that's coming to mind is super controversial. So, so it's a long story, so I'll make it very simple. Okay. For those of you who are from the area, you may or may not have seen the crosses that are installed across the street from the Lafayette BART station. So that was a quote unquote planning project that I was working the counter, where someone asked if they could put in a memorial display. And it was looking at our code to seeing if they could or could not do it, knowing that it was going to become a very, very controversial project. So by far, it will be the project that I remember probably for my entire career. I was being contacted by newspapers in Europe asking questions about it. Like it really was talked about far and wide.
So for me, it's when I was still working for Fish and Game, and we were working on endangered species in the Delta, and Contra Costa Water District wanted to build a new reservoir. And we told them, well, you can only do that if you do X, Y, and Z. And those were, we asked for things that were far above and beyond what we had any right under the law to ask for. But we were convinced that if they did it right, they could change how water was provided to Contra Costa Water District. And so they finally agreed to do that. And that's how the original Los Vaqueros Reservoir was built. And then when we were all done approving the permits, we're sitting in the hearing room, and the project manager came over and asked me if I wanted to go to lunch. And I said, well, is it you or is it the water district? He goes, that's me. And so he and I have been married for like 26 years now. So we found a way to work interest-based together. And then we decided, well, if we could figure out that, if we can save Delta Smelt, we could make this work. And we've been negotiating for 26 years now. So
That's awesome. All right. Do we have any final questions from the audience? I'm not seeing any come in.
All right, let's keep going, team. Thank you so much, Cindy and Michael.
Okay, Jackie, would you like to share the upcoming library event at this time?
I always like to share library library events. On our webpage, ccclib.org, go to our events page to find out all the fabulous programs we have coming up, including the Electrify Your Ride webinar. So if you have more questions about e-cars or e-bikes, you can check in there. I would like to point out that you can also look at the videos from previous events. So for example, we have the videos up there from the previous climate career chats if you want to take a peek at those. Any questions, just let us know.
Ellie, would you like to have some parting words?
Yes. Thank you to everyone on the team who worked on this event. You all have done an amazing job. Mia, Rohan, Rachel, Karina, with our additional help from our other interns, and Nina. Thank you for all the time you put into making this. And I think it was another great one. And on that note, I'd also like to thank Michael and Cindy for joining us tonight. I know a lot of the SLIA members who put on this program are really interested in policy. So this was a wonderful event just to talk about how you can maybe get started with that, what that looks like in a practical sense, and just hearing about how you can get there. So thank you so much to you both for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And of course, thank you so much to everybody for joining and listening. And also, once again, a huge thank you to both of our panelists for sharing a window into their lives today. If you're interested in SCOCO, SLIA, or anything related to either of the panelists, you can find that information here. We have the Instagram handles as well as an email. If you would like to join SLIA, please contact Alison at sustainablecoco.org. And we also have a little link tree if you would like to know more about the Climate Career Chat in the future. And with that, we'll see you at the next Climate Careers Chat in November. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much to the library for hosting our event. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.